The Cosmere isn't just big, it's deliberate, detailed, expansive. We're talking about a universe born from the shattering of Adonalsium. 16 shards, 16 intents, worlds shaped by divine conflict, investiture behaving according to metaphysical physics, cognitive shadows refusing to die, gods rewriting prophecy, and a single immortal trickster quietly stitching it all together.
Roshar has odium, honor, and cultivation, locked in a millennias-long war. Sel has devotion and dominion, splintered and stuffed into the cognitive realm. Scadrial has preservation and ruin, locked in a cosmic stalemate.
And if you're brand new, or even halfway through Stormlight, that scale can feel overwhelming. Not because it's confusing, but because it's layered. Every world operates on the same cosmic rules, but expresses them differently.
So the question really becomes not where should I start, but where is it the best place to learn the rules of the game?
Where do you first truly see a shard at work? Where do you learn what Investiture can do to a planet? Where do you watch prophecy get rewritten by a god?
Because that's what the Cosmere is really about. It's not just epic battles or magic systems. It's about power, who holds it, how it shapes the vessel holding it, and what happens when intent collides with humanity.
Today we're making the case that the ideal entry point to all of that isn't the first published novel.
And it isn't the 1,000-page epic with 10 interlocking character arcs and ancient immortal beings walking around in disguise.
It's the book where you first watch a tyrant who once touched divine power rule a broken world under falling ash.
It's the book where you discover the prophecy was a lie.
It's the trilogy where a keeper of forgotten religion ascends and becomes harmony.
Where Kelsier refuses to die.
And where you learn what a shard is before you even know the word for it.
It's Mistborn, the Final Empire. When people ask where to begin the Cosmere, 3 titles usually come up. Elantris, The Way of Kings, and Mistborn, The Final Empire.
All 3 are valid, but they create very different first impressions. Let's start with Elantris. Since it was published first, there's something enjoyable about watching an author evolve in real time. And to be clear, reading in publication order is a completely valid approach.
And Elantris is important, cosmologically important. It's our first glimpse of what happens when shards are splintered.
Devotion and dominion aren't just dead. They're dead. They're shattered. Their power is trapped in the cognitive realm and becomes what we later understand as the door.
Which means that Sel is operating under a completely different investiture dynamic than either Scadrial or Roshar. The power isn't filtered cleanly through a vessel. It's raw and pressurized and location locked.
Aeon Door only works because of geography. The shapes mirror the land, the magic literally breaks when the land changes. That's wildly sophisticated Cosmere mechanics.
But here's the catch. You don't understand any of that while you're reading Elantris for the first time. You don't know what a shard is. You don't know what shattering is. You don't know why the door behaves violently. You're just watching broken magic slowly unravel.
Structurally, Elantris is a political recovery narrative. It's about decay, faith under pressure, and rebuilding a fallen city.
Which means the pacing is intentionally restrained. Raoden spends chapters experimenting, Serene has to politically maneuver, Hrathen debates theology, and it's all thoughtful and deliberate.
But as an introduction to the Cosmere, you're front-loading patience. You don't see explosive magical payoff until the very end, when Raoden amends the Aeon and restores the city.
And that climax is incredible, especially once you understand that the land itself is part of the spell structure, but it's delayed gratification.
Here's the deeper issue. Elantris is cosmologically advanced but narratively isolated. You see Seons in the door, but you don't see a shard actively maneuvering. You don't see a vessel ascend. You don't see intent reshape a god. And you don't see planetary scale manipulation.
It's like being handed a piece of advanced machinery before you understand what the machine is even for.
If someone begins with the Cosmere with Elantris, here's what they experience. Slow political build, mysterious magic, heavy theological discussion, delayed magical payoff. What they don't immediately see is the hard magic rule systems in combat, clear escalation, shard-level conflict, and planetary stakes.
And because they haven't yet seen Sanderson's signature structural payoff, the Sanderlanche, they're being asked to trust an author they don't fully understand yet and haven't been giving a reason to.
This isn't about Elantris being weaker. It's about it being subtler. It hides the cosmological brilliance behind political pacing.
So, yes, publication order is logical, but reader experience matters more than chronology.
Now let's talk about The Way of Kings, because many fans, and honestly we're among them, will argue that this is Sanderson at his absolute peak.
Stormlight is emotionally devastating. It's philosophically layered, structurally ambitious. It's about trauma and leadership and oaths and what it means to truly bind yourself to an ideal.
It's also about gods killing gods.
When you step onto Roshar, you are not entering a contained story. You're stepping into an ongoing Shardic war.
Honor is dead and splintered.
Odium is actively trying to escape the system after having already destroyed multiple shards elsewhere in the Cosmere.
And cultivation is still present on the planet, but hiding, quietly manipulating events on the planetary scale, even if she's barely mentioned in The Way of Kings itself.
That's not entry-level Shardic knowledge.
That's mid to late game Cosmere theory.
Stormlight doesn't pause to explain what a shard is in beginner terms. You're dropped into a world where Spren are splinters of honor and cultivation, the Heralds are cognitive shadows who have been tortured for millennia, the Fused are ancient souls reborn through Odium's Investiture, and the Recreants shattered 9 of the 10 Radiant Orders, and you're expected to just keep up.
You're not learning what Investiture is. You're watching advanced applications of it. Surge binding isn't just, here's a clean rule-based system. It's nail bonds, ideals, resonances, and cross-intent investiture interactions.
Each Radiant Order has different oaths, powers, and philosophies. You're absorbing theology and metaphysics while trying to track character arcs.
Structurally, Stormlight is also complex.
It's not just long, it's dense.
There are multiple point of views and epigraphs quietly explaining Cosmere mechanics.
There are letters between shards hidden in chapter headers. If you start here, you're reading a series that already knows it's a part of something much bigger.
Then there are the Heralds. They're not just ancient warriors, they're cognitive shadows stapled to reality through Honor's power.
They're broken because they've endured endless cycles of torture. That concept of souls refusing to pass on makes far more sense if you already understand the 3 realms and basic realmatic theory.
And then there's Hoid.
In Stormlight, Hoid isn't a cameo. He's actively influencing events and manipulating outcomes.
If you start with Stormlight, Hoid feels mysterious. If you start with Mistborn and expand outward, Hoid feels strategic.
You recognize him.
And you understand at least part of his greater Cosmere significance.
Stormlight also asks for immediate emotional investment in multiple storylines. Shallan's fractured identity, Dalinar's past war crimes and eventual redemption, and Szeth's moral collapse.
This is heavy material layered on top of cosmic mechanics. It's incredible, but it's not light onboarding.
And the problem really is that none of it is fully resolved by the end of The Way of Kings. You're teased about Dalinar and Shallan's histories, and you know Kaladin is struggling with depression, but not really the full extent of his mental illness. And you really have no idea what's motivating Szeth at all.
Stormlight isn't just one book. It's a 10-book epic, and we're only halfway through. Each book is over 1,000 pages. Each one expands the cosmology further.
When you choose Stormlight as your starting point, you're choosing a story that doesn't have a finished arc yet. If someone starts with Stormlight and then stalls halfway through The Way of Kings, they don't get to see the deeper shard revelations, the full Recreants context, and the larger Cosmere implications. They just experience density and depression.
And density without foundation can feel like confusion. Not because it's poorly written, but because it's advanced. That feeling is something I dealt with myself when I started The Way of Kings back when it was released.
Brandon has said that he sees Stormlight as his pinnacle epic. It's enormous and intricate, layered with symbolism. It's built on centuries of history.
But you don't start someone with the most complex structure and say, figure it out. You give them the fundamentals first.
You show them how the pieces fit together.
And Stormlight doesn't build that foundation and assign a single contained story.
And it isn't self-contained in one book, or even the 5 that have been released so far.
If you start there, you're stepping into something that doesn't yet have a concise ending.
And won't for decades. Mistborn finds the balance, and not just in length or pacing.
It sits in the sweet spot cosmologically. It's the first time the Cosmere really exposes its rules, and it does it inside a story that still feels intimate, grounded, and controlled.
Structurally, the Final Empire is clean, but underneath that clean structure, there's a much larger mechanism quietly turning.
On the surface, it's a heist story. A thieving crew, a charismatic mastermind, a street urchin discovering she has powers, and a plan to overthrow a god emperor. Simple.
But the heist is misdirection, because the Lord Ruler isn't the final boss of the Cosmere. He's a stopgap. He's just a man who briefly took up preservation's power and then misused it.
He didn't fully understand what he was holding, and in trying to fix things, he made a lot of them worse.
He knew he couldn't release Ruin, but beyond that single clear purpose, he made so many mistakes.
Rashik's ascension is the first time we see what's possible when a human touches Shardic power. He moves the planet, he reshapes biology, he creates the Ashmouths, and he builds the Steel Inquisitors using hemalurgy.
He's not just a tyrant, he's a flawed vessel who lets fear and intent warp his choices. Mistborn shows you early that divine power magnifies personality flaws, which becomes crucial later when you watch Taravangian take up odium.
Vin's arc isn't just about trust.
It's about her compatibility with the Shard of Preservation.
She's subtly guided by a dying god who is literally losing his mind.
Preservation can't act directly because he's bound by his intent, so he nudges through prophecy.
And through the mist.
Mistborn teaches you that shards are constrained by their nature. They're powerful, but they're not free.
Then there's Ruin. Ruin is cunning. He edits. He whispers. He influences characters who have hemalurgic spikes. He subtly changes text not written in metal.
Because anything not written in metal cannot be trusted.
It teaches you to pay attention. Even the seemingly obscure details are important.
Mistborn is also your first exposure to cognitive persistence, and in Secret History, we learn that Kelsier refused to pass into the Beyond, and instead chose to linger and navigate the cognitive realm.
And punch preservation.
In the face. Mistborn teaches you that death isn't always the end in the Cosmere, which makes the Heralds, the Fused, and even Thydakar later far less bewildering.
And then we reach Sazed, the keeper of religion. He becomes Harmony, and that's not the end of his journey.
Harmony isn't just preservation plus ruin. This is one of the most important moments in the entire Cosmere because it demonstrates not only that intents can combine, but also that a vessel can balance opposing drives and the personality of the vessel shapes that outcome.
And hemalurgy might be the most terrifying magic system in the entire Cosmere. It proves Investiture can be ripped from one stole and spiked to another. It proves that cracks in Spiritweb allow shards to influence mortals.
That concept echoes everywhere later. The mist snapping elementic powers, Spren bonding broken radiance, the transition through death to ascend to the powers of an Elantrian. Investiture enters through damage, and Mistborn introduces that principle first.
Among so much more, Mistborn teaches you what a shard is, what a vessel is, what ascension looks like, how shardic intent shapes vessel behavior, and how cognitive shadows persist.
The emotional story makes the cosmology digestible, which is exactly why it's the perfect entry point.
Mistborn doesn't just work as a story, it works as a foundation.
It teaches you how to think in Cosmere terms.
So when you step into Roshar,
you're not overwhelmed, you're equipped. Allomancy isn't the only magic on Scadrial. It's 1/3 of something so much bigger. Scadrial has 3 metallic arts: Allomancy, Feruchemy, and Hemalurgy, and each represents a different way power can function in the Cosmere. That's not just cool world building, that's foundational education. Before you ever even hear the word investiture.
We start with Allomancy. You swallow a metal, burn that metal, and gain a specific power depending on which metal it was. Each metal does one thing. It's clean and predictable. Allomancy is in positive investiture. You're not using your own power, you're acting as a conduit for preservation's power. The metal isn't the fuel, it's the key.
Ferrochemy stores attributes inside metal mines. You store strength by becoming weaker for a time, then you can retrieve that same strength later. There's no real gain and no real loss. It's balanced.
Hemalurgy is end negative investiture. It steals, it transfers power from one person to another, but with a loss of power in the process. It's invasive and dangerous and comes with multiple costs. And as we learn more about hemalurgy, we learn something bigger about the Cosmere. Power can be manipulated and transferred, and it can damage the soul. The implications of hemalurgy throughout the larger Cosmere are terrifying. It's not just limited to taking the metallic arts on Scadrial. No invested being is safe.
So in just one series, you see 3 fundamentally different relationships to power using the same investiture. Conduit-based power through allomancy, stored power through ferrochemy, and stolen power with hemalurgy. So when you later encounter on other worlds, you already understand that power can behave in multiple structured ways, and your interest becomes curiosity instead of confusion.
Now compare that to Aeon Door. Aeon Door is beautiful, but it's chaotic from a reader perspective. The door is trapped in the cognitive realm. It's splintered shard power from devotion and dominion. It's geographically locked. It requires correct form and location to function.
When the chasm alters the land, the entire system breaks, which ultimately is brilliant, but you don't understand why until the very end. And as an entry point, that is mystery first, clarity later.
And then there's surge binding. Surge binding is layered. Nail bonds, spren, oaths unlocking power through moral progression, stormlight as fuel, multiple surges combining into resonances.
It's not beginner magic. It's investiture interacting with psychology, morality, and shard remnants. You're learning advanced metaphysics while also tracking character trauma.
Allomancy doesn't sprawl. It's contained. You know the metal chart. You know the effects. You know the limits. Even when new metals appear, they slot cleanly into the structure.
And because the mechanics are clear, the emotional stakes can shine.
Finn's growth from Ska street thief to ascendant warrior feels earned because we understand every step. No deus ex machina, no unexplained surge.
The brilliance of Mistborn's magic system is this. You understand enough to feel clever, predict possibilities, and anticipate strategy, but then Sanderson still surprises you at the end.
Aeon Door hides its mechanics. Surge binding layers its mechanics. Allomancy teaches its mechanics.
When you're choosing a starting point, you want clarity first. Rules that you can grasp, payoff that you can see.
Because once you understand allomancy, you're ready to understand investiture. And once you understand investiture, you're ready to understand shards.
And once you understand shards, you're ready for the even bigger questions.
Here's the real reason Mistborn works so well as a starting point. It feels complete, but it scales.
You can read it as a standalone and walk away satisfied, or you can continue into the rest of the trilogy, into later eras or the wider Cosmere. It introduces deeper mysteries without requiring shard knowledge, universe awareness, or cross-series homework, which we love to do.
Elantris asks for patience.
Stormlight demands commitment.
Mistborn asks only for curiosity.
And for a first step into a universe this large, curiosity is the perfect place to begin.
That's the balance. Elantris is thoughtful and layered. Stormlight is monumental and expansive.
But Mistborn is inviting. It's structured and fun and thematically rich, and it prepares you for everything that comes after by building confidence instead of confusion.
If you're brand new to the Cosmere, this is the door we'd hand you the key to.
Because once you step into the Cosmere,
there's always another secret.
If you're already deep into the Cosmere, where did you start?
And if you're new, did we convince you to pick up Mistborn: The Final Empire?
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you
in the next chapter.